25,600 minutes. How do you measure the life of a woman or a man?
In truth that she learned, or in times that he cried, in bridges he burned, or the way that she died.
It's time now to sing out, though the story never ends. Let's celebrate the seasons of love, seasons of love.
Five hundred 25,600 minutes. How do you measure a year? In daylights, in sunsets, in midnights, in cups of coffee, in inches, in miles, in laughter, in strides. In 525,600 minutes, how do you measure a year in the life?
All right, our RE is beginning right now. This is for any school-age children and youth. You can meet right over here. And this month, they are studying
Yes, I am a professor and I'm used to talking, but I'm not a lecturer, so this will be a little here. And my dad, if you haven't met Mike Carter, he's a really cool guy. I'm really talented. That's amazing. This is a homecoming for me. I haven't lived in this one Friday night VH in this shopping center here. I don't remember, but I think it was a Blockbuster. Remember that? And perhaps also within that radius, I won the 1988 Inflatable Hulls division of the July 4th River Raft Race. I still have the trophy. The race was sponsored by Budweiser, so the trophy features a can. Yeah, it's great, yeah. So it seems fitting to come back here and share this part of my story. So, stories move in circles. They don't move in straight lines. So it helps if we listen in circles, because there are stories inside stories and stories between stories. And finding your way through them is as easy and as hard as finding your way home. Because part of the getting lost is when you're lost, part of the finding is getting lost, right? And when you're lost, you start to look around and to listen. So those brilliant words are not mine. It's an excerpt of writing from a book called Writing Your Life by Dina Metzger. But this is to say that I'm not telling my son's story, that's his to tell. This is mine. This is my story. My story is inside his story. So we are always growing, aren't we? We are always growing. I think it's one thing to say that we're always learning, but this is different. Growing is more than just acquiring more knowledge, right? It's about becoming someone different and someone new. And I believe in large part this is what spirituality is. It's a continual search, discovery, and search again for our purpose in this world. So it was also within a mile, as the crow flies, where I knowingly met my first trans person. It was at the previous location of this congregation. A room similar to this. There was a local church partnership where they were hosting a series of pop-up homeless shelters. And I was volunteering at the UU location next to the library when I met someone who I assumed was a man dressing as a woman. I met her, I won't say her name because I'm going to tell you some details about her. Long, scraggly hair, denim mini skirt, heels. Fascinating to me. We'd stay up late nights and talk. During the day, she'd go out job searching, doing what she needed to do, but would come back home for the meal, for the bed, for the water, for the wash. And she was probably in her upper 20s when I met her. Low income, never had had a physical before, but had gotten a physical for a job that was required, and discovered then that her scrotum was empty, and that though she had a penis, had ovaries. So she lived into and I wonder about her, but this is what I wonder. Is she still alive? '88, probably also 89-ish. She didn't have the words. I don't think we as a community had the words. So I learned later, but my understanding grew over the decades, and in all honesty, it always is, right? So also in that time, the gender diverse community was developing a more precise language. By 1995, the word transgender was hitting the mainstream. I learned that some of my students were transgender. I did my master's thesis on the topic, got published. By 2018, so 7 years ago, my own child came out as transgender when he was 10. He was in 5th grade. It was the middle of the school year, and as soon as he figured it out, he was ready to tell everybody. He didn't know what transphobia was, and I didn't really know how or if I should prepare him for that. In years, has he given his identity a second thought? It is not a phase, not a trend, it's just who he is. So I call this next section of the talk, being a parent of a transgender kid is hard AF. It is. So certainly being a trans kid is hard, and I don't mean to say otherwise, but being a parent of a trans kid is its own kind of hard. It's its own journey. Sure, part of the hardness is continuing to learn and grow myself and overcome my own biases and fears, but honestly, this isn't the hardest part. Love is the answer, and sometimes love is easy, especially when I find my own liberty in gender expression from unequivocally accepting who he is. When someone you love changes, you change too. But sometimes love is hard. There's a 2012 book called Far From the Tree by Andrew Solomon. Thumbs up. Excellent book. It's long though. Set aside lots of time. About children growing up with an identity or an experience drastically different from their parents. He calls this a horizontal identity, not one that we get vertically from the ancestors. Examples are various kinds of disabilities, so neurotypical parents who have an autistic child, hearing parents who have a deaf child, average size parents who have a child who is a little person. The author himself is gay and reflects on his straight parents who never understood, though loved him. And yes, there's a whole chapter on transgender kids and their cis parents. One revelation of the book is that parenting these kinds of kids who are so different from their parents is a test of a parent's love. It's an experience that the parent knows little about. How do we prepare? Too many parents don't pass this test. Of the love. Here's a quote from the book. There is no contradiction between loving someone and feeling burdened by that person. By difficulty, love is made more acute when it requires exertion. The hardest part, though, has been protecting him when others have no shame in erroneously believing that he is the threat. This has been the source of my biggest growth and leaning into my own purpose, a moment of personal calling. Little backstory first. Early in my kids' gender journey, to find support for this hardness, I connected with a local support group and found a whole network of amazing parents. One lived in my whole county. This friend's transgender daughter was publicly outed on social media, and weirdly, with street signs, handmade signs made by that my friend's daughter was using the correct restroom. My friend and her daughter were terribly impacted, scared out of their minds, falling to sleep at night together in the same bed, soaked in their own tears. So I fought publicly. They couldn't. I felt that I could. I felt like it was a kind of same perspective that she could, but she was too vulnerable in that moment. I felt like my immediate neighborhood and community of Ashland was safe. And if speaking out would work, then my son could benefit too. So at this point, my son in the schools was not being allowed to use the restroom. He was being hoped that if I spoke out about the needs of trans kids throughout the district, that the school board would understand, and it just, of course. I spoke at the October 2021 school board meeting about them needing to pass a policy. I was the only one of an audience of over 100 that day to speak in favor of this, and I was heckled. I swore I would never go back to another school board meeting unless we could ratio them. Flip the audience, pack it with supporters of trans kids. Thus, an activist and organizer was born. Something I never would have thought, predicted for myself just a few years prior. So we live in Hanover County. I haven't yet said exactly. I already heard Simone's great. So we live in Hanover County, and my kids attend Hanover County Public Schools. If you had already heard of Hanover County schools are a hard place for transgender kids, that might be because of me and my amazing friends. Were amazing. The local LGBTQ youth center, side by side. Then, and I have my ACLU button on right now, says, protect trans kids. Then all of the community partners pitched in. The youth center donated us these t-shirts. If you Google Hanover schools transgender and you click protect every kid. The first time I saw that sign, I almost took it because that's my stance. And then I realized they didn't think my kid was a person. So our buttons that we had parent homemade at home. She made like 200 of these. Every kid includes trans kids, right? Come on. Another ally gathered names, signatures for a newspaper ad that we ran. Hanover costs, $2,500. So we raised that in 2 days. People were fired up. There was a postcard campaign. The next month, we filled the room such that the opposers couldn't fit in the room. I trauma trembled that whole meeting anyway. It became a community-wide effort and continued full force for nearly a year. A focus of in the school system that I could. I started knowing only 3. I grew my list to over 50. Over 50 families have trans kids in Hanover schools that we know of. And I know them, and I invited them to picnics, and we created a community. Before this, I didn't really have a circle of friends. Call to action, and boy did they. The professional local organizers were impressed. When people think of Hanover, I don't want them to think what I think you're thinking right now. Do you know Hanover's nickname? Clanover. I don't want that to be our narrative. What we've been working really hard for is not to emphasize that the narrative of Hanover is hate. We are emphasizing our message. Overwhelmingly, our experience in our county has been supportive and loving at every turn. I've lost one friend. That's it. But boy, a whole bunch of new allies were born, not just me. These people on the list of 300, never been politically active in their lives, but there they were. Give me a shirt, Kelly. All right, gotcha. You know, Berkeley in the 60s was a conservative school. Did you know that? A white, rich kids' school. Maybe to some extent that's still true. But when I say Berkeley, you think liberal bastion of hippies, right? Why? A lot of newspaper articles. High school seniors from across the country were like, whoa, I'm going there. This is my vision for Hanover. That the school board has removed over 125 books from the school and currently ranks #1 in the state for book banners. Second place is 34. Goochland is 34. An effort in part unbearable and even violent actions by students' peers and even some school board members themselves demanding a policy, and they're like, you want a policy? We'll make a policy. So they adopted an anti-trans policy. So, like, what world are we living in? But a wave is coming. You know it is, don't you? We will get these kids and these families the support they need. We will. This journey has called upon me to be quite brave and vulnerable. Nothing to be ashamed of. We have It's also allowing my I came up with this quote, so if you're going to quote it, it's me. This is me saying this. If you hide from the people who hate you, how will the people who love you find you? That was one of my big aha moments out of this. My network of other parents of trans kids has become huge, and still is, but it's a good life. This represents how I want to be in the world. I want to be authentic. So Transgender Day of Remembrance is this Thursday, November 20th. Its shortcut name is TDOR, Transgender Day of Remembrance. It's an annual day to memorialize those who have been murdered as a result of transphobia. The day was founded in 1999 to draw attention to the continued violence towards transgender people. Most of the victims of these murders, 56%, are Black trans women. A third of these cases remain unsolved. Only 15% result in a conviction. These are evidence that the violence, this kind of violence, just doesn't seem to matter to our justice system. Only one of the last 175 reported transphobia murders, so this would be 0.005%, resulted in a hate crime charge. Yeah. So I'll offer 3 suggestions to you for observing TDOR this Thursday. 3, you can pick one, fits you. So find the 2024, they tally this annually after TDOR. So what's available right now is 2024 data. If you go to the Human Rights Campaign website, they have the list of the 2024 Fatal Violence Against the Transgender Community list. And read some of those stories. And when you do, say their names aloud. If you observe Advent, there's a brand new Advent calendar for trans awareness that just came out. It's on the website Justice Unbound. If you Google Justice Unbound and Trans Advent, you'll find it. It is a calendar. The calendar invites you each day to read about a trans saint or a nonprofit organization that serves that community. Also accompanying it is a devotional 20 or 37-page devotional PDF with some look at the list, read about the stories, say some names aloud. Second one is the Advent calendar. The third one is more like pop culture, like read a book, watch a movie. My recommendation for a book is a novel called This Is How It Always Is. It's from the perspective of parents raising a transgender kid and the hardness. For a movie, I suggest Will and Harper was delightful. If you haven't
The Fredericksburg Pride is having a T-door service in the Market Square, downtown Fredericksburg, starting at 6 o'clock. I'll be speaking there. Jackie White will be speaking there. So if you've got some time, come out and join us, and we'll be remembering those. Yeah.
I'm the father of a trans son, 19, close to your age, and sorry, it's the hardest thing. It's hard. Those that don't have a trans kid don't realize that not only are you trying to keep them alive from other people, you're trying to keep them alive from themselves. Are their grandparents. They don't see them. They don't see them. Yeah, it's. And it's been wonderful. It really has.
So my response to that is, preach.
And you know, my question basically is just, why do people feel so threatened?
guesses. I mean, I think has been, sure, I have a agreed to meet with me. Conversation for 3 hours. And I listened to his concerns and I shared my perspective and I said, and so we have that in common, right? I think it's tangled up in a much larger worldview than just this one thing. Yeah.
Sorry, didn't mean to interrupt. You know, between some family members who struggled with gendered and all of that, and then the other family members, you know, one parent on one side of it, one parent struggling. And I hope I will be able to share this with them so that they will understand that they've been seen and understood. And I hope that all of us who have friends and family who are struggling, that we come away with some understanding of how to speak and support and encourage those folks. Their son struggled in high school with depression and anxiety, and therapy didn't really, you know, always do the trick, and medications were, and it was just wrenching for years. And now that son is early 20s, doing great. But it was a journey to get there. And I hope we all step away with the courage to step forward, if that makes sense. That didn't make sense, but.
Yeah. So in our parent support group, I obviously come in contact with a lot of families who've been ripped apart by this. And these support groups become a family, and my network of friends is amazing, and we have not lost any family. Grandparents are all on board. Hey, Dad. Yeah. And we go to family reunions, and they're all on board, and it's like, Thanksgiving is awesome, you know, none of that awkwardness. So just very fortunate, and maybe that's another.
Let you. County, we took over the school board just this November, and we took over the Board of Supervisors. So I think things will be better.
So here's something I need you all to know. Virginia has 133 school districts, and overwhelmingly most of them overwhelmingly most across the country are elected school boards where if you don't like them, you can flip them and hold them accountable to the people. Hanover County is one of 11 in Virginia that still appoints their school board. So they elect some conservative person, and those people have gotten farther right, and then they appoint someone even farther right, who would never make it into general. So our fight right now is to get an elected school board. So if you heard that Hanover had that question on their ballot in 2023, that was me and my friends. And we lost. So now we're pursuing the bill through that will make it illegal to have appointed school boards in the state, as is the case in most of the country. Yeah.
Kelly, are you able to stick around for a while if people have more
Yes.
questions? Because
Yes.
we're running out of time here, so thank you. All right, let's give her another hand. All right, next weekend is a huge weekend. Have you ever noticed how everything all happens at the same time, right? There's all kinds of stuff happening. Next Saturday, there is a gratitude market. Marcia, are you here? There she is. It's at her place, and this is going to be full of vendors that are metaphysical and gratitude related. There's crafts and all kinds of stuff. I would love for us to have a table there and just be there to chat up people. If you would be willing to help with that, it's from 12 to 5 this Saturday. Please come see me. Please come see Marcia. But I double booked them. So they're having to adjust and move their setup time to 7 p.m. Saturday. All that to say, if you can come help us set up for Thanksgiving feast next Saturday. Yes, it is the fall holiday potluck.
And the reason we say that is that we're not providing turkey.
Right. It's all. So bring your best stuff and let's have, it's always a big service and it's always a lot of fun. So I hope you'll plan to come and be a part of that. We're also making Thanksgiving baskets for Hazel Hill. There's sign-ups out in the foyer. You can also see Kurt Winburn if you have questions about that. And because of our time, we're going to move right along. I'm going to ask you to stand with me and let's just have a moment of silence as we reflect on what we've heard this morning. Amen? All right. Here we go. We are going to extinguish our chalice by reading together our extinguishing the chalice words. Let's read that together. We extinguish this flame. Till we are together again. Have a great day. Thanks for coming. Microphone. One more thing. We have delicious corn chowder and delicious barbecued pulled pork sandwiches that we're bringing out right now. So please stick around. Don't be in a hurry. Have a bite